Hello, my dark sky advocate friends. My name is Ryan Andresen. I live in just north of Salt Lake City, Utah, up in Layton, Utah. And my fight is basically we have some pretty poor streetlights that have been coming into our city, and so we're trying to get them shielded. So what my strategy is to go out to farmers markets in the general community in our county. Luckily, we have Antelope Island State Park that was designated in 2017 as a dark sky park. They're only about 20 miles to the west of us, right dead center of the Great Salt Lake. And so we're so fortunate to be able to team up with them, and we've gone out for the last couple of years in communities, farmers markets especially. And so I'm just going to try to give you a demonstration of what I usually use for my demonstration table. We have typically a tent that we have the community come out, and also I usually put out a telescope, so we'll take a look at the sun. Sometimes we'll get Jupiter and Saturn that fall time to be able to look at, because I think it's important. Probably the most important thing is to get those guys to look at and be able to touch the sky for themselves. I mean, I can show them pictures, which is have over here, but it's not until they touch it where I think that they'll bring that importance into it. But I was talking with and asked by Ben and Maya, the public outreach of the IDA, to show you what I've kind of designed. This just kind of came out of my head on what really a good light and a bad light has looked like. So I went down to Home Depot. I have pricing on there, and you can kind of tailor it the way that you want it. I probably ought to put some more information on the side, so what is good, what is bad. I kind of like to draw in information, or questions from anybody that stops by, that I can start demonstrating what goes on. So what I have is basically set it up, built in as a little lamp. And so I'll show you just a couple pieces here. And I have a light switch in the back. So as I talk about this, I have a street address here, and I purposely used some numbers that can be easily mistaken. So I have 838. So sometimes you can be mistaken to 888 or a 333 if you're not seeing all the eights. And so what I'll do is I'll demonstrate first the bad light, and of course you can see what the bad light is. And I bought this at Home Depot for $5 and whatnot. Just be careful, you do use this light, these little screws will hold in the glass as I'm rolling it. I've had the glass fall out and had break, it'll shatter, and so I had to go buy another one, a whole nother fixture. So I hate supporting this type of light, but I had to buy another one. So essentially what I kind of show them is, and a lot of times it's dark, hopefully when during your demonstrations, so they can take a step back and I try to tell them, sometimes I'll cover up this address and ask them to read the address. And a lot of times they can't. Then what I do, that's also a 5,000 Kelvin light bulb, so I can show them exactly those two things, unshielded and 5,000 Kelvin. And then I'll have a switch that's right next to it go into, and that has a 2,700 Kelvin light bulb fully shielded. So the difference, it's more expensive, $20 versus $5. It does look better, I think. But you can obviously tell that you can really see that address a lot better. And so I try to relate to think about, say, a fireman or a police officer that you call 911. Do you really want to have them having difficulty trying to find your address by having that glare in their face? And so that's what's kind of neat. So I'll go into detail on how I built this. You can see that I have put also some shielding around this. This is so when I go out to star parties, I will bring this along too, the star parties, just so that this light is facing away and it's shielded from the telescopes from the Astronomical Society's viewing and whatnot, because I think it really kind of bothers them. So I try to face this away, and that's why I have this border here to shield that away from them. So I'll go back and talk to you about the back part of it and how I built that, but also I like to show what I have here. I have two photographs that I personally did. If you don't have the means to go take some night sky photographs of your local night sky park or dark sky park, see if you can solicit just a amateur photographer to go out and shoot that kind of stuff for you, and then print it out on metal, something nice that people can enjoy. And so I have kind of local areas, and this one's kind of down in southern Utah, so I talk about the dark sky parks as well in Utah. I really like these two National Geographics. It is let's see, the sleep, it talks about the blue light and whatnot. That was the August of 2018 issue. And then the end of night was the November 2008 issue. I think there's a couple other ones, but a lot of this one in here will, there's an interesting article locally from my area up near Salt Lake City that talks about a few of the LDS temple that's down that way that stays on all night, and they talk about how it's keeping everybody up at night. So kind of interesting because there was some local stuff about my area in that National Geographic. The IDA also will supply you for free. You just have to ask them a lot of these pamphlets, just depending on your targeted audience, if you will. Birds, we got crime, and some examples of some good outdoor lighting. And that's all online on the IDA's website. And so I just kind of lay these out. And while I'm running the telescope, and people will ask me, what's going on here? Why the two different lights? And so it draws them in, and I can describe what's good, what's bad, and why by the backup information. I have just all my references. I like to show scientific evidence, so I'm just not blowing smoke, really. So I usually have like the American Medical Association, the Thomas Jefferson University. This is all about the blue light. The Journal of Epidemiology. I mean, I can post all that stuff, but you probably have all that information. But I also like to have that handy. So if anybody wants to look into depth, I say, here's your references. You can go take a look at it, and then go into the references of those articles, and you can see all that peer-reviewed science that's pointing in that direction. So let's take a look at the construction of what I did here. It's basically just 2x4 frame. I just pulled it from some scrap wood that I had, that I pulled together. I did go to Home Depot to buy, of course, the lights, this plaque plate for my address, and the wall back here is just a paneling that's fairly cheap that I have there. And I'll swing around to the back side too, and we'll take apart that back side and show you how I built that. All right, so what I have here is I just have a Gold Zero battery that I usually keep, and it'll keep it running all night, because usually you have these LEDs that are in here that are not that big of a wattage for you to use for your demonstrations. And so just make sure it has AC, so alternate current, so just a regular wall plug, that it can convert that over to AC power, so it can power your lamps in that AC format. So that's what I use to power it, because a lot of times at your little outreach, you're not going to have that ability. Over here, a couple things that I've added a handle on each side with 4 screws that are bolted. Make sure it bolts into your 2x4 as I show, because that's going to really help you out, lift that up into your vehicle, because it's kind of heavy. And so because it's a 2x4 frame, and I probably have too thick of walls right here for the shielding, but it's just what I had in my garage. I also have 4 caster wheels on the bottom, so I can bring it down and push it along to my side. And that's where I tend to break this little piece of glass right here. So I'll unscrew it these days and pull it off while I take it to my site, and then I'll screw it back in when I set it up and put it up on the table. But make sure your casters will lock, because certainly you don't want it to roll anywhere. You can just put it up on your table, lock them down, and that'll help out tremendously. So first of all, I have 2 2x4s that run for the base of it, with also a 2x4 from the back. So I'm going to turn around, we're going to disassemble this piece to the back so you can kind of see how the wiring goes. So first of all, we have right up in here, we have 2 electrical boxes. They're round household electrical boxes you buy from Home Depot. They're typically blue in color, plastic. Okay, so here's the back side of it. I just kind of put this wall on the back side just because it's thin. And it's pretty lightweight, and it looks all right. So I have the switches over here. They're just common household switches. I like to put a dimmer switch on it, because when it gets super dark at a star party, I can dim it down, so I'm not really bugging those guys over there with the little switches. So let me pull this little piece off here, because this is your wall plate. And of course, I'm unplugged from the electrical for my battery, because that could shock you if you're still plugged in. You're going to have what's called a 2-gain box for these 2 switches, and so you can kind of see what's going here. And I'm going to have to probably pull these out as well to see what we have in here. So these are probably going to be your most expensive pieces, because
it's a Lutron, or you can get whatever you want, but they run roughly about 10 bucks a piece for these. So I just bought some wire. It's just a positive and negative wire. So hopefully you'll look at an electrical scheme or contact me, and I'll kind of run that through how those are connected. And then there's your 2 gain electrical box you're going to put in there. So let's pull this off.
Okay, so let's take off this wall. I think I only have about 4 screws in there holding it. And we'll get to see what's inside, which is not much. It's just 2x4s, and I framed it like you would a house, like 18 inches on center. And let's pull this off. We're gonna pull these things through here. Take a look what we have inside here.
So this is probably what's going to make it so heavy, is because I framed it up with these 2x4s. So probably 2 8-foot 2x4s should work out pretty well to get all these dimensions. You can just build it however high and however big you want it. And so here we have the 2 light gain boxes you're going to put in first, and I just hammered those in, and then brought in my wiring through here and then up into here. So each light has a positive and a negative, and they come into this box, and that's where you're going to connect to your light switches through here. It weighs about 50 pounds, so it's a little bit heavy, but it's pretty easy once you get it on the ground on those wheels. And the bigger the wheels you can put on there, the better. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm at nightskyscience@gmail.com. That's all one word, nightskyscience@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to walk you through it. And if we need to do a Zoom call to help you out on how to wire it, I can certainly show you how to do that. Thanks for watching, and hey, good luck out there, and clear skies.